The truth is, I always tell people I'm lower carb, higher fat, and then I have to say is compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah, it's not keto because the fat macro never goes up to 70 or 80%, right?
Right.
I mean, you really got to work at that when you're on OFM, and you fluctuate between balancing out your carbs and your fat.
Yeah, I probably have days where I probably took in 400 grams of carbs. Now, the truth is that's still low compared to the average American and the average diet and the average athlete. I mean,
well, yeah, and that's the days you're doing that. You're doing maybe an all-day ride,
yeah,
and maybe 80 or 90% of the external calories you took in are carb calories, right?
right.
But compared to what you produced in energy, it's probably down there around 20%.
Right. And then there are days when I do any of that. I mean, I've done 100 milers with nothing but water and salt, basically. I mean, some sort of electrolyte. Sorry, and Vespa. And the truth is, and what's good about OFM, at least for I see, is that once you get into it, and I'm an engineer, so I would rather someone give me a spreadsheet that tells me what I need to eat and how much to eat, because it just makes life easier for me. But at the end of the day, my body will tell me when I shouldn't have eaten something.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, it might be hindsight, but I have to learn from that, right? That's my problem.
Well, and that's part of what going back to this man-made construct. We've lost that trust of our own intuitive knowledge. That own, our body can tell us.
Yes.
And we've lost that because we've taken ourselves so far afield of the natural world, right?
Right.
Once you get, I mean, like I say, all I'm doing is trying to get us back to that physiological state that we were meant to have, right?
Yep. And that's what I try and push, is that at the end of the day, this is all about getting your metabolic health such that you don't have to rely on big pharma. You don't have to rely on the medical system. The old saying, food is your medicine, is true.
Yeah, but it's more than that. There's the training. You got to exercise do a certain way. You have to get enough sunlight, or at least get some sunlight, and get supplement with vitamin D. You really have to learn to manage stress in the modern world, because there's so many what I call insidious stressors that we don't even realize. Like all these notifications and texts and things that come at us, they're pinging some very primitive fight or flight hardwiring that's not meant to be pinged the way it is now. I didn't know the backstory about you'd gotten to 230 pounds and decided to get back in shape, and fortunately got yourself in the right track with it, with fat adaptation and then finding OFM. And I think the thing is like, it's not keto. Like where you are right now, since you've built your metabolic capacity up to the point you have, it's like, if whether it's for strategic carb use or social things, if you want or need to have carbs or not eat at all, you can.
Right. Yep. And so that's the good part, and I feel healthier. And again, my body rebels when I don't eat right. If I'm stupid, I don't listen to my body and I do it again. And that's the, human nature.
Well, super. And so now that you're kind of really into the whole OFM lifestyle, do you ever think about it anymore?
As far as how I eat, in general, I don't think about it. I just know there's things I like that, but it's not going to do me any good. It's not going to be a benefit.
What kind of advice would you give to somebody listening to this, whether they're an athlete or somebody who was where you were 6 years ago?
The biggest one is give it a try, right? It's going to go against the grain of what you've been taught and been told for years, but put the effort in and you'll see the benefits. I mean, I always hear people talk about all, this and that about what the pros do, but the average person runs under threshold, which is perfect for burning fat.
Right.
And you just need to try it. And if I was going to put a plug in, well, look up at OFM, because there isn't just one way to do this, right? So everyone thinks of fat adaptation and keto. People need to realize that this isn't keto. Keto's a tool, and I'll do keto for a week or something sometimes because I do feel better.
I do keto. I just go start fasting.
Yeah, so similar thing. But the point being is that when you hear about fat adaptation, think it's this one niche you've heard, right? That
one
from some
size
guy
fits all high fat diet,
right.
where you're forced
So
bacon every day.
check out the OFM website, look at the blog posts and the info on, and that there is another way to do it. It's not carb phobic. It's using carbs as they were intended. You know, I always tell God made us a certain, which was to burn fat as a large part of our fuel. But yeah, you're going to burn carbs when you need them. And
and the thing is I'm finding with our work, and I say our work because it's working with athletes like you and Jeff and Peter and all the athletes I work with, all of them, regardless, is, it's individualized, but carbs are essential to actually increase your fat adaptation because you need the carbs to get that little push carbs are known for.
Right.
So you can perform at a higher level and create that adaptive stress from training to get better at burning fat at higher rates. Because the problem with a straight ketogenic diet is you end up, it's a really, ketosis is a conservation state, especially the way the current science is practiced, because as you probably know, and you probably fiddle around as an engineer, an OFM fat adapted athlete runs very trace to low blood ketones.
Right.
Whereas the reference range that's established by science is much higher. And I think that's because you're producing the ketones probably as much, if not more, but you're also burning them because you have that metabolic capacity to do so.
Right.
Whereas a sedentary person doesn't have that metabolic capacity to burn ketones. So if they're in an excess energy state, their liver's going to be dumping ketones into the bloodstream. And all of a sudden, you've got these high ketones, you think I'm there, or you take a ketone ester and you think I'm there in keto nirvana, right?
Yeah. So the point is to give it a try. There's nothing to lose, right? You'll feel better.
Yep.
And the only thing I would also add, and this is I see it in all these people that always try and give the poo-poo to fat adaptation, is they always try it on and go, well, this person took 3 months. I can tell you from my experience, I experienced the fat adaptation maybe 3 to 6 months. I felt some of it, but I've been doing this serious for 3 to 5 years or whatever. And it takes time for your body to get fully fat adapted. It's not an overnight thing. You can get stages of that, but if I tell someone I rode 100 miles and didn't need to eat anything because I didn't feel like it, that doesn't mean if you do fat adaptation 3 months from now, you can do that. I mean, you might, depending on your body, but it's, some people, it's not something, but at least look into it, because I think if you just look at the information, and again, look at what most people do, they're running at below threshold.
You're doing exercise at or below threshold and you're fat adapted, it's where you should be, right?
Right. And you don't need those things. And it's sort of like, that's the, if there's anything that's a beauty to it, that's it, right? That's the fuel you should be burning. It's like, the hybrid, right? I don't need that super juice for most of the running.
What people need to realize is change is also hard. And like if we know consuming a lot of sugar is not a good thing. I mean, most people know that intuitively, but they make that connection that carbs equal sugar. And then, so they've been told they need carbs. They just haven't been told that your body sees that as sugar, right?
Right. Yep.
And they don't see the pathways of the oxidative stress, the glycation, the lactate load, and how that all of a sudden causes that downward cascade of challenges the body has to get through. And the body's very resilient and can do that, but you pay a price, and over time that price grows in terms of all kinds of things. Whereas when you're burning fat, you're not only burning fat, but you're metabolizing fat, which is critical for your cell walls, for your mitochondria. People need to realize that a little sugar goes a long ways, but a lot of sugar is doing them really serious damage on a hormonal level.
Yep.
I think that people really got that message and took it to heart. They kind of start to think about some really basic things, like the reason we store fat is that's what we're meant to burn. I mean, actually we have a very robust glycogen storage system for our fight or flight fuel, but it's meant to be fight or flight, not main fuel tank.